Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, where we have great conversations with great people, and any good conversation worth having is worth having drunk. Cheers, mate. Good to see you.
Delicious.
Absolutely. What are you drinking today?
I'm drinking a Pendleton Rye.
I went straight Kentucky Straight, Basil Hayden's.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
It's tasty. It's tasty.
All right.
All right. This week, we got Billy Stevens back on the show, and he brought a guest with him, Chris Meseke. I'm going to say, I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong, Chris, but they're joining us. Chris is the head of product and marketing for SeraSystems. And of course, Billy is the CEO of SeraSystems and the CEO of BillyGo. But we're going to get into all kinds of things today around softwares, how they can better improve your business and the efficiency within your business. Not specifically talking about Sera necessarily, but just softwares in general and why it's so essential for your business and how it can make your life easier as a business owner. And also diving into financials as well, which is so important that as a business owner, you understand how to read your financials and how to make business decisions based off of what your financials are telling you. So I'm excited for this episode, bud. What about you?
It's good. Oh, it's going to be fun. Obviously, when you talk, we've had Billy on a few times, and he's they're a sponsor of the show. And anything when we get into efficiencies and numbers really lights me up. So I'm super excited about it, and it actually kind of dovetails perfectly about why Sera's sponsoring the show as well as Profit Rocket, and of course SeraSystems. In case you've lived under a rock, they're a field management software. And ensures service businesses can be profitable using 4 key pillars of a successful service business: time savings, membership management, margins, and cash flow. I think the coolest part, though, is the ability to track job time efficiency in real life. They have a dynamic dispatching that you can put online on your website, and a pricing model based on actual data. So here's some stats. The average increase in revenue of 52% within the first 6 months of using Sera, and the icing on the cake is those same businesses have more than doubled their profit margins. So book your demo, head on over to sales.sera.tech/HVAC-revealed.
There you go. Love it. And our other business sponsor, Profit Rocket Business Blueprint. If you are in the home services and you are looking to grow your company, not just the top line revenue, but the bottom line profit dollars, money in your pocket, you need to be on the lookout for the Profit Rocket Business Blueprint that is dropping on October 20th at the Service Rocket event in Las Vegas. I'll be there. You'll be there. Billy and Chris will be there. It's going to be a great time. But the business blueprint that Victor's going to be dropping, it's everything that he's done to build his company and scale it from $0 to $50 million in 4 years. Covers everything from P&Ls, SOPs, position for all the positions in the company, call scripts, marketing plans, you name it, that and so much more. Definitely be on the lookout for that. If you need the link to register for when you get to see the updates, that is profitrocketbusinessblueprint.paperform.co. Register for that, and you will get all of the information when it comes out live. There you go. Done. Let's go.
Let's get after it.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, a show where we interview industry leaders and disruptors, revealing the success secrets to create and unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Now your hosts, Thaddeus and Evan.
Boom. And just like that, there's magically 4 of us. Chris, Billy, welcome to the show, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
What are we sipping on today?
You know me, I'm all about the tequila.
There you go. You got your ranch waters?
Código 1530 here, mixed up with a little Topo Chico and a little bit of lime. And we got us a good old-fashioned ranch water.
Beautiful. I can't wait to get down to Dallas. Come try one of those with you. What about you, Chris?
I'll make it for you.
Perfect.
So I went over there to the bar in the house, and I found a Tagauchi whiskey, Japanese whiskey, and I haven't tried it yet. I always, when I see that on the shelf, I've got to pick it up. Just more interesting. So we'll see how it is, guys.
Perfect.
There you go.
Awesome. Well, cheers.
I think, Evan, you've had a bottle of that once, but
cheers, guys.
Cheers.
So. All right, let's get out.
I was watching Chris's face to make sure that it would.
I come on the show so often so I can disguise my drinking problem, because it's mandatory here.
Absolutely.
I'm a little less practiced.
Oh no, Billy!
I
You
think
brought a
I'm doing
rookie
a
on the
show
show.
tomorrow where I have to eat a really hot potato chip and see whether or not I can not cry
Oh,
or
no.
something. That's some kind of crazy thing I'm doing tomorrow. So,
Oh God, no.
yeah, I'm not looking
Sign
forward
me
to that.
up.
I'd rather do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got to wash it down with those.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, shall we get into it?
Absolutely.
Let's go.
So, Billy, did you want to introduce Chris and the vital role that he's really played in the organization?
Yeah, so Chris is the head of our product and marketing. He came from the finance world. I'll let him get a little bit into what he's come from, but all I can say, the 6 months that we've had him on board, it's been fantastic for us. The main job that he does for me is I'm an analog guy. So you just picture, a record spinning on a turntable for you people that don't know what an analog guy is. And I'm that old vinyl record, and Chris is like a DAC player. I'm sure you have those, digital to analog converters, and that's what he does. Is he takes my experience from my 25 years in the field, running these companies, and we sit down a lot. We spend a lot of time together, and he basically takes my experience and converts that information in a way that our engineers can actually build what I'm asking for. And that's a very vital role, because you got to understand every little piece of what I'm asking for, and how it relates to, I may say, hey, I need something for maybe I need something for membership or something. Well, there's a lot more to that than you think, and so we have to walk through that entire scenario of membership selling, membership processing, going back and doing the services. All that stuff has to be digitized in some way so you can make it easier for you when you use the product.
Right.
And so from there, I'd like for Chris to go ahead and introduce himself and kind of tell us a little bit about himself.
Yeah, sure. So Chris Meseke, actually, but it's okay. I've been called much worse. Don't worry about it. No apologies needed. Yeah, I've joined the Sera team back in April, and since built a team around me. I can't take all the credit, but yeah, Billy did a great job introducing, taking his experience and his stories and turning that into software, into methods, into coaching, into a marketing plan. That's what we do. My team and I all do on a daily basis, and I feel a great responsibility in trying to get this information out there, both in the day-to-day when people are using the application, our multiple applications that we have out in the field, to keeping things running for them in the field, to how do we reach more people, right? How do we get this message out there? And so that's what I'm charged with, and I got an awesome team around me to do that here at Sera, and just methods and bringing this the story, like I said, that and the experience that Billy has. So yeah, deep responsibility for this industry to bring this out to the world.
I love it. Well, I find a lot of contractors that are stepping into the role of business owner. One, having to understand so much of the complexities when it comes to running a business. That's one challenge. Two, how do you make it easy and streamlined for your new technicians that you're bringing on, CSRs that you have on the team? How do you streamline everything to make it easier for them to go out and run their business? So that's one challenge of new business owners. The other challenge is the business owners that have been around since Billy started and running a business, because they still exist too, where they've been in it for 25 years. And that transition of going from yellow pad technology and filing away everything and writing down everything on paper to now going digital is really where you're coming into play. So when it comes to softwares, how is it that I can actually find a software that is going to help grow my business instead of just being another pain in the ass thing I got to learn, and it's going to get in the way and end up slowing down our process and causing us to do less, not more?
You want me to start on that, Billy?
Yep,
go for it.
All right. Well, some of the things that are very important. So I'm going to peel back the curtain a little bit at Sera and how so all of those things you said are on our minds constantly, but I got to say, I got to tell you what we're doing instead of just saying that, right? So what it means is, when we design something, first of all, we have designers on staff. We're a small company and we still have designers on staff. And the reason that's important to take away is We are at every step, we look about how these complex things can be broken down. So you said yellow pad, I think is the word you used, right? Taking these processes, and sometimes we have to just put all the pads on the table or on a wall. Is a lot of times what we do. And we start peeling it back, and we start peeling it back. And usually our design sessions where we have folks that have experience in the industry, we can bring them in because we have an operating business downstairs in our building. And we bring all these ideas in, and we start stripping away and making it less and less complex. So Apple has a saying where they have steps in which they look at software where you zoom out first of all and you look at the big picture. And that's what we do first. And then you zoom in and really focus on whatever problem you're trying to solve. And then you iterate through that. And so we bring that methodology by having designers take a look at the first stab at something. We go through multiple iterations, is keep taking away and taking away and taking away until it's at its most simplistic form. And we find success when we can design something and put it in front of the user. And I had this comment yesterday by bringing one of our new concepts we're having with equipment types. I put that onto the screen for the first time, and the comments were, I understand what this is doing without even you explaining it. I didn't say a thing, I just put it on the board. And they understood the concepts in an application before I've even explained anything. And if we can get that with everything that Sarah's bringing, we're doing our job. That's what I feel like we're doing our job. So that's one example of a way that we tear through a complex subject and bring it. And you could say, well, other software companies do the same thing. Well, I think what's lost and a lot of times, because I've worked in the corporate world for a long time, is you have a lot more people. And one of the most difficult things you have is with a group, an organization, is to try to get that vision, that image, whatever your mission statement is, down to every single person. And when you start hiring large teams, you start being a large operation, you sometimes contract that work out. Sometimes you just have a lot of teams and people that are newer, people that are leaving. And so your concentration of that mission statement is a little bit lost in larger companies. And so what we have is we don't have that. We have the passionate people and a small team. And I think that's what we're able to bring is Billy's knowledge, operating business downstairs to all of our customers we currently have. And all that goes into sitting in front of a screen and saying, I know what this is. I know what I'm looking at without its explanation. That is modern software to me, and that's success. So I hope that answers your question. It was a very long-winded way of getting around there, but
Oh, 100%. It's how do you zoom out to zoom in, right? Like,
yes, sir.
And identifying what it is that you really need. So I guess, Billy, to put your contractor hat on, when you're trying to make a decision on a software or any software, because there's multiple ones that you need for different areas of your business. I look at our business as example, like the amount of SEO softwares that exist, paid ad softwares that exist to be able to analyze this data and that data and call tracking, and let alone the CRM that exists as well. There's so many different things that can grab your attention, and everything has a new shiny aspect to it, a new shiny object to it. As a contractor, when you're trying to make a decision on what softwares to bring into your business, because this is not just going to impact you as the business owner, it's going to impact your entire team and how your operation runs. What sort of things do you need to consider when you're looking at, one, making a change, two, just making a decision in the first place as to what softwares to use?
Well, first of all, there's no silver bullet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and the shiny objects get your attention, but do they do everything you need them to do, or does it create more work for you? Does it cost more money, right? So we're in the business of how do we simplify? How do we figure out how to get the money that you're already bringing into the company down to the bottom line? And so as a contractor, you need to evaluate things before you buy them. Just because it's all nice and shiny doesn't mean it's that silver bullet that you're looking for to solve your problems. Unfortunately, if you have a business that just isn't running correctly, there's really nothing going to solve your problem until you dedicate yourself to what you're trying to buy and make that happen, right? And that's what Sarah does. Is we have a mission that we're going to, a road or highway that we're going to drive you down to help you solve these problems as you start using the software more and more. And that's the whole idea. Whereas when you're doing a lot of bolt-on softwares, which we can do, There are very good softwares that we use as to complement our software as well. But I just think that you shouldn't get distracted by all the shiny new objects that are out there and really focus on getting the best CRM for you first, because running the business is the solution. You've already won the lottery by owning the business. I mean, the opportunity to own your own business in this country is amazing. All right. So you won that lottery. So how do we make the most out of that lottery winnings? Right. And that's our concept here. This is what Sarah's about. It's really about how do we drive all that money to the bottom line instead of you wasting it along the way. I've got a perfect example. So we have job time efficiency, and we turned that on for our customers a couple of months ago. And I have a customer, this happened yesterday. He is all bought in this job time efficiency. And he calls us up about once a week. I'm not going to say his name. In fact, I didn't give him a call to ask him if I could use his name. I should have done that because I think he would let me, but I didn't. Anyway, he had a job and he showed it to our success, Sarah, we actually have a Sarah working at Sarah, and she's on our customer.
Different spelling.
She's in
different spelling.
Yeah. She spelled her name wrong. I'm sorry. No. So she's our customer success advocate, right? And so at Sarah, you get one of those when you get our software, and he calls her up and he sends her an email. He goes, I want you to look at this. And so she jumps on his Sarah account and pulls up that job because he gave her the job number. And on that job, without him saying anything, the guy sold 1.5 hours worth of work. But the amount of time it took him to do it was 13 hours. And we're like, and so Sarah's first response was, well, before she even dug in, she goes, well, it sounds to me like he took payment, but didn't close the call when he took payment, or right. That's your first reaction. And he goes, and, she's like, well, we can, talk to your guys about, it's very important that they close the call. Now, let me show you how to edit it to make it right. He goes, oh no, it's right. It took him 13 hours. And she's like, well, tell me more. And he goes, well, we had a call where we needed a camera. We have one camera, but we had multiple techs, and he needed a camera. So he needed to go and get the camera from the guy that had the camera. So he's leaving a job that he's going to get $600 for, and he's going to go get a camera. And, there's 5 or 6 technicians, and there's one camera. And all 5 or 6 technicians can use the camera, but they pass it around when someone needs it. Okay. So he goes and picks up the camera, brings the camera back. It doesn't work. The head's been broken. Okay. So now he's on the phone. Everybody's on the phone trying to find the head so he can fix the camera, so he can use it, locate this problem that he's seeing under, that they're having underground. He's unable to unclog it or whatever. Long story short, 13 hours later, they get everything fixed. They get it to where it works, and he goes over there and he solves the problem. And he collected money like he's supposed to, closed it out, but it took 13 hours. And the reason he brought this to our attention, he goes, this happens to us all the time. And this happens to so many companies. So what we try to do at Sarah is, first and foremost, I'm going to give you some really quick, easy math here and a business advice. It's way cheaper to have 5 cameras on each truck than it is to have one camera to pass around. So how much money? Let's just look at this. Let's say he's got a $400 flat rate price. $400 times 13 hours is $5,200, I think. So this is money that he never saw another customer, totally messed up the schedule for the day, right? He had these calls booked. Now he doesn't get to those calls. He's involving himself, the owner. He's involving the dispatcher. Everybody can try to find a solution for this one call. We have all this man hours on it. And this is what happens in these companies. Whereas had he bought 5 cameras and had a camera on every truck, financed that, took the depreciation, wrote off the interest, he would have made way more money. It's so much cheaper to have 5 cameras. And I know cameras are expensive. They're like $15,000, I think. That's $75,000. But on a 5-year note, we're talking about $1,500 a month. I mean, we just wasted $5,400, right? in billable time. And so that's, almost 4 months worth of payments. And he would have had a camera, in every truck. And so this is the things that we do in our businesses that we don't realize that are killing all of our profitability.
Right.
And this is what we help solve. We help you get organized so you can see these things that actually cost you more money. And this is just one scenario, but this happens on calls all the time. Not having the right equipment and tools on a van is the worst thing you can do. Not having 2 water heaters in a plumbing truck is the worst thing you can do. Not having enough Freon or the right gauges or whatever on those vehicles is the worst thing you can do. Going and getting it after you're already on a call is a loss right then and there. Now let's look at the other side, the other point of view. Would that customer call that company back again after he wasted 13 hours on this job? We talk about getting the best techs all the time. We talk about giving the best service all the time, but yet we won't go buy the equipment to do all the things that we need to do to make this happen.
Right.
And this is where all the money goes. And this is what we help fix. There's nobody out training that. There's nobody training these day-to-day things. They're training numbers or process or whatever, but no one's training the day and how we're wasting money. And that's what we do at Sera. We help you stop wasting money so that money can go to the bottom line.
Right.
So he pretty much wrecked the whole week in that scenario and disrupted several people in the business and the customer, who will never probably call them ever again because they're not capable of doing the job.
Right.
And that is why you need to make good decisions when it comes to software. It will not fix those problems unless you have something to help and a roadmap, right? And that's what we're trying to provide.
Well, and this is another perfect example of where ignorance isn't bliss, ignorance is pain. You think you're being cost effective as a business owner because you bought one camera that you can share amongst 5 trucks, and you miss the aspect of being completely inefficient when it comes to being able to deliver for clients, when it comes to efficiency on the job and making sure that you can get to 3 jobs in a day instead of 1, and pay your guy overtime because he just worked 13 hours for the day.
Right. And the thing is, so the simple solution in the minds of most owners would be, and this is what we totally oppose, we don't show our jobs, all the jobs, to our technicians.
Right.
They only can see the one job they're doing. And so, when we have problems like this with our new clients and we talk to them about it, they're like, well, why don't you just let us see all the jobs? Let the tech see all the jobs. I go, well, so they'll know what to get before we go. Well, again, now we're wasting time, and now you've got the techs running your business again. And we, I am not anti-tech. I get it. Tech's got his job. We need to support him 100%. But if you're owning the business, you need to be in control of what happens, right? And that's how you get this thing under control. And having them look at all the calls, and they start cherry picking calls, then you create this animosity between techs and between dispatchers. You got your favorites, all these things. If you would just do it one call at a time and have everything you need and do it, you'll have a much higher average ticket. You'll have more efficiency, and then all of a sudden you're making money. It's just getting rid of the chaos.
That's it. Keep it simple.
It's that simple.
The old KISS model, right?
All right. Saving money to buy a little minivan to put a tech in and not have the material is not saving you money. Not having the equipment, it's not saving you money.
Well, like that, like one of the comments that I made on the side in the YouTube was, people get scared of this initial big dollar investment, right? They see, oh shit, I got to buy 5 cameras, 75 grand. And they're like, what? And they get scared of that dollar number. But when you actually equate that out into what that means on your income statement, how that means on your job time efficiencies, how that affects your revenue, how that affects your EBITDA, like there's all these other factors that go into it that people don't get to see that in real time. And I think that's what's fascinating about Sera is now you've taken this old technology that people wait for a week or so, or however long your bookkeeper takes for you to get your books and doing it antiquated way, and boom, it's real. It's right there. It's done. Right. And now you can see, oh shit, at the end of the day, what jobs did I make the most money? What jobs did I not? Right. It's a fascinating way to be able to do that. And I think the shiny object syndrome is all too real, right? Like people hear about it all the time, and you have to check yourself as a business owner to say, okay, well, what makes the most sense for me on my business? Does it make sense to switch my software, every month, right? Like we went through that on our business with our project management software. We went from Asana to Hive to ClickUp, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm not changing. Like it's just a tool. It's how you utilize that. But I mean, Sarah's obviously it's like the Cadillac of all tools that are out there. I think, in my opinion, in field service management software. So I guess when you have that, when you hear about the shiny object syndrome, and maybe Chris, you might be able to talk to it, and keeping this KISS theory, how can you, I guess, as a business owner, reduce this insatiable need to want to switch all the time when you look at something what Sarah has in place or other softwares? I mean, it doesn't have to be Sarah related. We can talk about some of the other ones if you really want without saying any names.
So I think one way to address that might be the progressive way that you can start diving into the software. So you could just get started, first of all, with Sarah, and it could just help out with efficiencies. Let's just take booking, for example. Start there, right? And you don't need to purchase anything else. You could just use it, for the booking part of it. Then get into, okay, I hear about this profit margin thing from these guys on this podcast, and I want to know more. This Billy guy has in store for me. Well, then we can take you through, how to, get things zoned in on your price book. And then you can take the next level. So I think that you don't have to I think some of the fear might be you have to embrace everything all at once. I think that you could do it in steps. We do like to call ourselves opinionated software, only because we try to be opinionated, but yet get out of your way. Some people we know that this might take some time to adopt some of these methodologies and concepts to what happens when I need to look at every single job and its efficiency. Maybe that's a little overwhelming for me at first. So, okay, well, we got ways and steps that you could run reports first and then start deep diving into what's important little bits at a time. Different periods. We've got different ways to filter the reporting. There's definitely ways to consume, and take that first step up a big mountain with Sarah, because you described it as a Cadillac, for example, and Cadillac is supposed to represent lots of features, lots of things inside of the car. Getting to know each one of them and how to utilize it, is one thing. I know there's a lot of people that come on board, or I read on user groups too, that they buy a lot of different software to do very niche things, right? Very niche things, and one for scheduling, one for this, one for that, and while you add them all together, you got a longer feature list, okay, yeah, than a Sarah. But how much are you? What's the load on your brain and the time it takes to implement each one to its full extent? Stop doing that. Stop doing that. Start using what's important. Start with Sarah, and we'll help you out get through an adoption of these little things and much more consumable chunks, I guess is the way I would put that. Does that make sense?
No, it makes tons of sense. And I should have used a BMW. I was listening to a book this morning. But you think about like the words that people use, like 3M, innovation, BMW, driving experience.
Yeah.
Right. What's the experience? BMW is a mass-produced high-end car. I mean, you go to Europe, they're everywhere, but their sole focus is the driver's experience. And when you look at something what Sarah has done, it's the user experience, right? We talked a little bit about that in the very beginning, taking these big complex ideas that have been in Billy's mind, that have been transferred to yellow paper, to back to Billy's mind, to now to you, to put on a whiteboard, to get into engineering, to get out to the user, but then make sure the user can be able to use it in a way that is friendly. I mean, I guess let's talk a little bit about a problem though for a second, because that brings to mind, what's the biggest problem that people can get into when utilizing a new technology? Somebody could be an older business moving to technology. What are some of those problems that you're seeing people are experiencing with not just Sarah, but technologies as a whole?
Oh, that was easy to answer. Obviously, it is trust and change. It's trust in the process and the change that it goes about. So, it's not just using new software. You have to change the way you're doing things. And when we all have so many different pressures during the day. right? And so many different things to make. And even if I know that this is a crappy way to do something, just because I know it, it's a devil I know, I'm just going to keep on doing it. And so I'm not sure if changing is going to be a plus or a minus. And I'm just going to do the thing I'm used to. And so that's the biggest hesitation with software. And so it's a constant challenge to instill trust. We can say it all day long. We can try to train it, which we do. We could try to guide people through in the app. We try to do that. I guess it would just take a multifaceted approach to instilling trust. I think that is what the biggest challenge people like me that are in technology and building products have to do. It's once we have the trust, they'll come along for the change and understand that it's better for them and get the results. But until we get that buy-in, it takes time and takes a lot of different methods because everybody's different. Everyone's got different things going on. So that's my take on it. I don't know if Billy has another take.
Well, from my experience, and I've visited with hundreds of companies over the years, and it just seems like the longer we own them, the more complicated we make them.
Mm-hmm.
We are trying to solve all of our little problems by creating other little problems. And that is really why I came out of retirement to build this software, is because of that. I just kept seeing it over and over and over again. And if you're running a business and it's making you money, you're making a good living, you're doing all these things, that's all fine and dandy. But if you could just take and do my 5% rule and work on each little item and improve it by 5%, it makes an amazing difference in the way people work in your office, takes a lot of the stress out, and it creates a lot of money to the bottom line. And that's what we really do at Sera, is we just try to simplify the things that have gotten complicated over the years in your business. You know, like the one camera thinking like that, I don't use a camera on every call, so why should I have a camera on every job, on every truck, right? Or these are the things that they start thinking. And there's a Home Depot every 10 miles, so every time we go to a job, instead of having inventory, we'll just go to Home Depot and get the parts and come back. Well, we have a rule at our in our company, and this is just a rule that we do, is you go to a job, you don't leave it till you finish. Right? You get everything, we'll bring you everything you need if it's outside of what's in the truck. But one thing I can tell you, if you want to know what the inventory for an HVAC truck is or a plumbing truck is, we'll give you that. We got it. We know what you sell. We know what sells the most. We can give you that information if you want it. But you need to be prepared to do these service calls. We always talk about we want the best techs and we want to provide the best service. And we do all these trainings, we buy all these shiny objects, but then we don't actually fulfill that need. We don't actually take care of the customer. And that was one of the reasons why we built the customer portal in the first place, because no software even thought about the customer end of it. And I'm not talking about you have the contractor, and then the contractor has his customer, and no one's even thought about that person. And how do we involve them in the software? And that's what makes Sera extremely different from what's on the market, is we put out a program that says, we're going to make it easy for you to do business with us. We're going to make it easy for Google to find your company so that you can get the best customers to do business with you, and bring the customer in along with the experience. And if you make a customer happy, they're going to stay with you. That's really what we're trying to do, is make people happy and continue to do work for them and have them refer us. And unfortunately, when we take 13 hours to do an hour and a half job, we're not making that customer happy. If we go to a job and we get a bunch of things that we got to do, and then we go leave for 2 hours, I guarantee your tech's going to go, I'll be back in half an hour. I'll be back in an hour, but they're never back on that. It's 2 or 3 hours, right? Yep. That's frustration building up with the customer the whole time they're not there.
Right. So
let's organize our businesses, have some software that'll organize it, and stop all of this wasteful things that keep you from making money. Mm-hmm. You burn in more fuel, you're doing all these things. And so that's really what we're trying to do here, is just simplify business. At the end of the day, that is what we do, is how do we simplify them? How do we get that money to the bottom line? By simplification. And all the bells and whistles don't change how the company runs.
Right.
If it's crappy, it's crappy.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Sorry, I'm still laughing at the Home Depot parts run because
Oh,
this
God.
is on my desk right now. It's a handle from my shower. My faucet was dripping when it was off, so I went to replace the cartridge, but the handle was corroded in, and so I had to drill it out. But then I went to Home Depot like 4 times, and my job still isn't done. But then again, I'm a DIY hack. But it's
At
funny that
best.
you're laughing because at best, hey man, I ran out an entire bathroom once, and an entire house, most of it myself. But it is a true thing, right? Like that's the most frustrating. And yeah, you know what? I probably could have paid somebody, and the job would have been done, and I would have been over with it. But I kind of like doing those sorts of things myself, and we have a couple other showers in the house, so I'm good. But you think about that, like as a consumer, right? I mean, I think you nailed that when you said a lot of businesses don't, or a lot of softwares don't think about the customer, right? At the end of the journey. Think about yourself, put yourself into that position. Think about when you use a trade, or when you use a service, or when you use a product, and think about your experience. As a consumer, if somebody says, I got to leave and they come back in 2-3 hours, well, generally when they've called you, that's probably an emergency related item, right? We're talking HVAC, so your air conditioner's not working, your furnace might not be working, right? If you're talking plumbing, well, you might not have any water. So now you've inconvenienced the customer even further when you could have had just a simple fix.
100%.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just one aspect of how we waste, money. There's just so many other little things that we do. And one other thing I want to point out, we built a scheduler, and we built a scheduler, to be sophisticated, not to replace anyone, but to help them understand what's best. And so a common practice in all companies is we have 3 meetings. We have a CSR meeting, a dispatcher meeting, and a tech meeting, right? And they should align.
Right.
But the CSR meeting, what do you tell them? You're gauging how many calls they book, how good, what's your booking rate? 90%, 100%, 70%, right? We're gauging them. Book every call you can, get your percentage up, right? And then you're telling the dispatcher, get all these calls done. And then you're telling your technicians, slow down, show value, get the customer what they need. Go run to Home Depot, go look for parts, waste more time, add more calls. Let's keep bringing in the calls. So what do we end up doing? We're giving bad service to everyone all day long.
Right.
All day long, we're giving bad service to everyone. And you want to know why you don't dominate. You want to know why you don't get the best techs. You want to know why you're not growing your business like you should. Because you're just overdoing everything. What if we didn't book every call? What if we booked the right calls? Right? That's what we're trying to help you. It makes more sense to give a schedule to a customer that you can somewhat do and participate and make them happy with that without overbooking. And so we've been taught to book every call we can so nobody else gets it. But then we just give bad service to everyone. And we run our techs all day long. And to top it off, it's 4:30, 5:30, 6 o'clock. Guy's been running since 8, and you send him the opposite direction of where he lives. The other way, 40 miles at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the evening. And so you've got all this overtime, you're burning all this fuel. Well, we need to think about everything that we're talking about when it comes to booking every single call. I want my CSRs to book every call, but I also want them to book the right calls and not overbook us, right?
Right.
And that's how Sarah helps you. I see this happen so many times. Your technician requests a week's vacation, and it's busy, and sometimes you give them that vacation, right? It's summertime. They want off for a week to take their family somewhere. Well, everybody writes it on a sticky note. They get the email and they write on a sticky note and they stick it on the wall. Joe Bob's off this date to this date. That date comes around. All these calls have been booked, Joe Bob included. And then you can't get a hold of Joe Bob. And dispatcher's mad. Department manager's mad. He's not answering his phone, dang it. Call his personal phone. Call his wife's phone. And you finally get a hold of him. Well, we're on the beach. Remember, I'm off. Now you're disrupting his vacation. And it's because there's just no organization going on. There's no follow through. We're not thinking about every single person in your company is a customer of yours. Every customer out there that you service is a customer of yours, the business owner. Your employees are customers of yours as well. And you have to make their life better. And you have to make their life less chaos and not abuse them. And when you do that and you create this culture and you're not running them to death, you'll grow a company because people want to work for you because everyone else is doing the chaos thing. And that's what we try to help you get away from.
People need to listen to that part twice.
Right. I actually even wrote down a note for us and our business, by the way, on a vacation time off schedule, because right now they just book it in their calendar and hope that somebody looks at the Google Calendar if they try to get in touch with them. So something for, hey, never said that we were a perfect organization.
Not a plan, man. Not a plan.
Yeah, there is no such thing as a perfect organization. I promise you.
Right.
But it can be better. It can always be better.
Right. It can be better. And so, right. And that's why I like it.
So Sarah, our software, knows when that guy's off. You don't have to put a sticky note up. It won't book calls for that guy. These are the things that it helps you do, right? This is what we're trying to get rid of, is all this nonsense. So we can, yeah.
So when are you going to build Sarah for agencies? Marketing agencies.
I kind of did. I mean, the customer portal is, a perfect fit for an agency. It makes you look really good, doesn't it?
It does.
It does. Yeah.
It works.
I think he's more over getting the efficiencies part of things for digital marketing agencies, because Lord knows that there's a lot of marketing agencies out there could use it. So, all right, random question time. And then I know, Evan, you wanted to get into some financial statements and KPIs and such. However, you still have to ask the random question part of things. Billy is all too familiar with this part. It's a random question that has nothing to do with anything on the show. But since Chris's first time is here, we're going to let him go first. Chris, you get to choose 1, 2, or 3. You don't get to know what the questions are in advance. You just get to choose 1, 2, or 3. And we're going to ask you your random question. So go for it.
We'll go with 2.
2. What do you wish you would learn 5 years before you did?
Oh man, that's a good one.
Who Billy Stevens was? No. It's actually funny. So I'll buy you a little bit of time, Chris. Before you got on, Billy, he's like, before I came to work at Sarah, he's like, I got to find out who Billy Stevens is. So he Googled you, and up came your podcast on HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, and he actually watched a bunch of our episodes after watching the one with you. It was us. He said we were the reason that he decided that, we brought out the best in Billy. And so he's like, I'm going to be on board.
I'm just going to continue this pandering. This is great. So yes, what I'm going to say then is I should have 5 years ago probably switched industries, because I'm having so much fun applying things that I've learned in the past to this model and what we can bring with software to a completely different industry. The fintech, it's boring, man. There's lots of people in the space, but this I wish I would have known 5 years ago. Met Billy, understood what the need is in the industry, and be able to bring this expertise to. So I would have loved to have done this 5 years ago. This is a lot of fun.
Love it. Great. Well, the next part of that question though is, would you have been ready 5 years ago? Would you have had the experience 5 years ago? Would you have the knowledge 5 years ago to do what you're doing today with Sarah?
Ooh, that is a good question. Well, if I really do self-reflect on it, probably not. The last 5 years was more going from a technical to more of a management and strategy. So I think the combination of those two, honestly, for my personal journey. So I can honestly answer that, probably not. So I'm where I need to be now, I think.
No, I already knew the answer before I asked it. But so Billy, on to you. We're not going to forget you, of course, with a random question. There are three options. Which one do you want to go with?
Door number 1.
Door number 1. What travel destination is at the top of your list, or just a place in general to visit?
I want to go to Spain. Yep.
My wife
architecture is great. I love architecture.
Have you been to like Italy and Rome and any of that too?
I I have.
Yeah. So yeah, just even still, like just phenomenal there. Like so old. I know my wife did a biking.
Spent 3 weeks in Italy
Yep.
3 years ago, and just really got to know the surroundings and kind of molded into it. We were there long enough to really actually be a part of it. And I thought it was absolutely cool. I mean, the funny thing is we're like, oh man, this is so awesome. And they're all like, man, I wish we could go to America. So we're like,
Skyscrapers.
like, yeah, they want to see new stuff. They call it all the old stuff they always look at. And no, I really enjoy traveling in Europe and around the world wherever I get the opportunity to go. But that's on our bucket list. My 30-year anniversary is next year. We're going to go to Spain and spend some time over there.
Amazing.
Nice. We'll have fun. I've heard absolutely amazing things. I've never been, but my wife did a cycling tour through Spain, and she said it was absolutely phenomenal and loved it.
Awesome.
So, yeah,
I think it's really funny and fascinating to think about just human nature in general and the ability to overlook what it is that we have currently and constantly looking forward to something else and be looking for something else, right? For us, it's, the architecture in Spain and Italy, and it's so amazing and so beautiful. And how did they do this so long ago? And for them, it's like, whatever. And they want to see what's new and what's modern in America. And that human nature ability to overlook what it is that we currently have is always fascinating to me.
But you look at like where I live. Like I live in Calgary, the Rocky Mountains. Like I can go upstairs in my house and I get a little sliver of the mountain view, but I never take it for granted because some people have never seen the mountains before in my life. Right. I remember reffing a hockey game in Banff, and it was they got in late that night. It was dark, and the kids just sitting there staring out this window in the arena. Like during the game was like it was a stoppage before the face-off. I'm like, hey buddy, you come. We're gonna drop the puck. He's like, sorry, I've never seen the mountains before. And just like fat, and you're like, you don't really think about it because you live there all the time. You see it all the time, right? And it goes by the wayside. So
I can't remember what the term is around that ignorance, but it's fascinating to me. I love human behavior. I love human psychology. It's just, there's so much depth to it.
Right.
One thing that you mentioned, Chris, earlier was talking about reporting. And this kind of dovetails into the financial conversation a little bit. So we'll get to that. But in terms of those KPIs, that reporting that we want to be looking at daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually, what are those things that we need to be looking at constantly as a business owner so that we can stay on top of the business from that 30,000 foot view, not getting into all the minute details, but that 30,000 foot view? What is it that we need to be on top of so that we can dive in to those areas that need the most attention? And either one of you can answer this. Go.
You want it, Chris?
I'm still very much a student. I know that there's some factors that Billy's been teaching me that Sarah brings, because we don't see the full picture, right? You put up there, I think a moment ago, a P&L statement, and some of those things are shared.
I can put it back up if you want.
Yeah, go
through it.
So sure. Some of these things I'm very much a student of still. But what you mentioned was some of these items on the top line are things that I can see from Sarah, and I can accumulate data. I had shared with you before the show started that we're actually measuring some of those successes that you put into the intro, right? I'm actually I have enough clientele that have been using the software long enough. I can now see those top line things. Right. But not everybody shares, obviously, the full picture. And so I'll let Billy take the P&L statement to kind of take it to the next level. For those that have shared those pieces with us, they've been finding great success. And so I'll let him walk through some of those key points.
Sure. I'm going to put my glasses on for this one.
I don't know if we can make it any bigger.
So
I could, but it depends on if you want to get into.
Yeah, so that's good. I think we
can through what you're looking at.
Yeah, we can see it pretty good right there. So what I want to talk about, I'm not a big guy. I don't really talk a lot about revenue, and I don't talk about revenue because the companies we're already dealing with have revenue, right? And so what we're focusing on is, we're trying to change the mindset from always having that every owner that I spoke to, if they're at 3 million, they think that all their problems will get solved if they could just get to 5 million. If they're at 1 million, if they could just get to 3 million, it's kind of goes back to that shiny object or the human psychology we were talking about just a minute ago, right? We always want what we don't have. And if we want these bigger numbers, we have been coached that revenue fixes all problems, and it does not fix problems, because 60% of the businesses in the United States went bankrupt while making a profit. Let that sink in for a second. 60% of businesses in the United States that went bankrupt were making a profit. Now let's dive into why that matters.
I was going to say, so why is that?
Well, first and foremost is poor money management.
Right.
First and foremost, right? You're making money, but you're blowing all this money along the way. Or maybe you've got high receivables and you're not able to collect. You were making a profit. You weren't able to get the cash coming in like you needed to keep the doors open. There's several different reasons. So you can actually be making a profit and go out of business. It is possible. And the majority of the people that actually go out of business were actually making some money. So revenue is an important part of it since it's the start. And just so I can explain a little bit about what you're looking at here. So on the left-hand side, on the revenue line, you see total revenue. You see $6.3 million, $3,079,000. That's this year to date, actual. Then he has what he budgeted, and so he's ahead of his budget by $338,000. And then he compares this to last year, and last year he did $4 million at the exact same time frame. Okay, so ending September 30, and his variance is a growth of over $2 million. And so that's over 50% growth that he's experiencing since he got on Sera. And he was on one of the other software platforms for the last 5 or 6 years, one of the big one out there. And this is what he was on. And so he bought into the Sera concept, hook, line, and sinker. And he has only been on our software since January, guys. This is it. So this is all Sera stuff. So what he's improved here, this is what I like to talk about, is the gross profit. As you can see on the first line, $3.2 million. That is what he had left over after he paid his material costs, his labor costs, any of the fees that directly relate to doing a job. We call it COGS, COGS, and that's cost of goods sold. So this is what we're doing out in the field. And I have them put more stuff up there than normal. Typically, most financial statements I see just have labor, material, subcontractor, things like that. I make them, anything that affects that job is going to be in the COGS the way I do it, the way I suggest you set up your financial statements. All right, your permits, your fees, your financing fees, all these things cost you money, and it's job related, okay? And so by doing this, now we have a clear picture of how much money we really have left over. And so in this particular case, he has $3.2 million left over, or 50% of the money he brought in, compared to last year, where he did $2 million less, only 45% of the money. Still not bad, but that's a 5-point difference. And the higher up on the financial statement that you make an improvement, the bigger the number is down at the bottom. All right, so if you'll scroll down, I'm going to go to the overhead, operating income and loss, and then right here we have all the operating expense. If you could go, so this is basically his cost of doing business, and then down here at the very bottom is EBITDA, and EBITDA is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, excuse me. And it's basically cash flow. How much cash did I have available to me to for that year? So as you can see here very clearly, he had $1.8 million, or 29%. So think about it like this. For every $100 he brought in, he got to keep $29. Okay. That is a very well-run machine. All right. Now, if you can go over to the right-hand side to 307, this is an average company. This is what we see. A good company today is an 8% bottom line like this, or 8% EBITDA in this case. and 7% bottom line. And so what we have here is a business that almost 4x'd his EBITDA in 9 months. We still got 3 months to go. I'm assuming he's going to finish well over $2 million in cash. And he also let me know that he has, for this business has been in business. It's a second generation business already. So it's been in business for years. And this is the first time in their history that they've ever had $1 million of cash with no bills to pay. And they did it in 9 months. But what happened to the other 25 years? Why couldn't they do it 25 years ago? Or they had 25 years to do this. But all of a sudden, with a little bit of discipline, in 9 months, he's doing what he could have been doing for years and really setting himself up for the future, right? Fortunately, he's a young guy, second generation guy, and he can continue to do this and create this amazing business. Now, here's something I want to add to this. This business is not in a major city. It's in a large city, but not in a metroplex. It's not in a large Dallas-Fort Worth and a large Los Angeles. It's in a mid-market, lower mid-market city, and he's being able to grow his business like this and dominate his area. And basically, he put in all the programs that we offer, and he dominates it. Now he's getting all the techs to come work for him. He's being able to pay more because he's making more. He can give back to the community. They can do volunteer work. They can invest back in their own community and become a major part of what's going on, which they already are. They've been there forever, right? They're a very big part of the family, the community. And this is what we do. So this is what I call a legacy business. And what I mean by a legacy business is a business that's going to make enough money that it's going to change the legacy of your family. You can do a lot of things with money like this. Mm-hmm. You can totally set your children up. If you do this right, you can get them in college if that's what you want. You can pay for it. You can set up foundations. You can do all these things that really improve your life and your legacy and your life. And you don't have to keep killing yourself to do it. It's really simple. Right. We can show you how to do this without killing yourself. I'm a pretty old guy, but I don't look like I'm really as old as I am because I don't stress because I have it figured out. I'm running a company, BillyGo. We're running a company downstairs, and BillyGo had 0 customers 4 years ago. It's not even 4 years. It'll be 4 years in January. We had 0 customers. BillyGo, we never bought a company. We did everything through Sarah to build this company, right? Everything. So in 4 years, over $26 million in revenue. But that's not the whole story. BillyGo was profitable in 14 months from a 0 start. And then ever since then, we have double-digit growth, our margins and our profits, our revenues at the same time. That's called a gazelle. So we started from the very beginning and become a gazelle because we improve our margins as much and we improve our growth. And we're going to experience about a 65% growth this year, just this year alone. And still, no acquisitions, no customer list, nothing, 0 customers. And the way we did it is our customer portal spread like wildfire. We did a festival about 4 weeks ago, and we talk to people and they come by our booth. And the way we get them to come to our booth is we have a coloring book that kids can color our truck and they can win a contest. Of course, we let all the kids win, but and we send them $100. We send them $100, right? We send them $100 gift card. Anybody that participates, we send them $100 gift. So we get a chance to talk to the parents while the kids are drawing on this coloring book, right? We got 1,240 emails, good emails from that one weekend. 1,240 new customers. Because we can offer them this kind of service, 1-hour appointments. Book it on your phone. Go do what you got to do on your day. Just be there between 3 and 4. And that's how we built the company. And we built it fast. And that's how we're improving this company that you're seeing here. It's the same thing. He made it easy for people to do business with them.
Right. Well, and that comes back to what was mentioned earlier in terms of reverse engineering the customer experience.
Yeah.
Right? People want easy. People want convenient.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, that's what's
Provide
exciting
for
about
them.
Sarah is this is in the fabric, right? What his story is now in the fabric of what we're delivering, and I find that very powerful. That's our responsibility to try to synthesize that, right? So,
I just want to say that that idea of going to an event like that, and like that's a guerrilla marketing type idea, right? You know, that's a branding type idea. It's not digital this and digital that. Like you went to an event, you had a truck, you had a coloring book, kids can color, you got 1,200 emails. Now, not everybody's going to turn to a customer, sure. But I mean, you do the math. I mean, you spent 12 grand on sending out those $100 gift cards to all those individuals, the booth, et cetera, et cetera. That's an investment into your community. And when you do those sorts of guys, like anybody listen to this, like don't go spend 15 grand if you don't have the 15 grand to spend. But when you can increase your EBITDA to 29%, like this example that we showed on the screen, now they have that much more money to be able to give back to their community. And when you can give back to your community, those things are going to compound greater than any other thing that you can possibly do.
Absolutely.
Right? And I will say this, I love that story, but if you're like, shit, I want to get to 29% EBITDA, I'm at 8%, sales.sarah.tech/HVAC-revealed, book a sales call, take their software for a test drive. You will not regret taking that call and seeing what they can do for your business. Evan?
Well, thank you for that. And this is just things that I see, every day, and it just makes our, and then I report back to Chris, and I'm like, okay, I was at a company today, and this is what I learned, and this is, and we come back and like, we can solve that, so let's solve that,
Right.
And that's basically what we're building at all times, and so we're building solutions, not gadgets.
I love that. There's the tagline. I'm curious. So with the P&L, obviously there's a lot of different things that are on that statement. What is it that we need to, because obviously not all of that we need to look at daily, right? So what are the numbers we need to look at daily and weekly? P&L, do we need to review that monthly? Is that a quarterly thing? Is that an annual thing?
Sure.
How frequently do we need to be diving into these numbers?
So P&L should come out every month. You should have your accountant have that available for you I prefer to have it available to me by the 10th of the month.
Right.
Right. And then I immediately dive in and I dissect where my issues are, because it will tell you, I have a percentage of every line item is a percentage of the revenue. So my marketing this month said 7%, but I'm usually at 5%. What happened? So I can easily, within 5 to 6 minutes, I can easily pinpoint with a quick glance through the financials where we messed up.
Right.
Okay. So that is the report card. But the best thing about Sarah is now with the job time efficiency, I can actually do it the second the job's finished.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I would have known. So what we learned from this, I think I'm going to put an alert and go, dunk, you're at twice the average, the sales that you gave. If you sold 2 hours worth of work and you're at 4 hours, there's some kind of alarm needs to go off. and then it's hooked up to the eye of the field and he gets shocked or something. I don't know.
Look at BillyGo. You get a shock collar when you show up.
Yeah, you get a shock collar when you come to work here. So no, I'm just kidding. But it's being able to pay attention. But actually what was really cool about the guy that shared that story with us, he was proud that he caught it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The angriness of it happening, but what we were telling him about what job time efficiency would do for him, he was actually paying attention to it, and he actually got to see the evidence. He knew this was going on every day in his company.
Right.
But he didn't have anything to tell him why it's so bad and what it's really doing to his business. And so if the guy that showed these financial statements was running his business all loose like that and not preparing his technicians to do the work, he wouldn't be showing a 29% EBITDA, right?
Right.
He cleaned that up. He cleaned up that stuff. And, the Gallup research poll says that our technicians are only 38% efficient. I've said this on this show numerous times. Well, there's a perfect example of why it's that bad. In fact, it's way worse in that scenario that we explained earlier.
Yep.
And this is what we got to clean up.
So job time efficiency, would that be a daily thing? Would that be a weekly thing?
To me, for me as an owner, I think it's a snapshot, just taking a look at it. And, for me as an owner, because I have people in place. I mean, we had different size businesses and we had different size responsibilities as these businesses go along the way. Right.
Right.
And then for me, but for my management team, the guys that manage this stuff on a daily basis, they're held accountable on a daily basis on the efficiency. We know things happen throughout the day that causes problems, but we try to see what those things are and adjust them. But, they're responsible for getting the efficiency for their department. And so that's where I'm at, so you're talking about different size businesses and the different size roles that need to be played. A $1 to $3 million business probably has the owner still in and out of the field.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to see that. And so the first thing we try to do for these $1 to $3 million businesses is get the owner out of the field. All right. And get him to where he can do more for the company by staying in the office, because he's got this information, this live information about what's going on. Help your guys close while you're in the office so you can help all of them instead of going to these jobs and trying to take over and close a call. Right. So that's what we're trying to do there, is get the guy out of the field, lessen the amount of work that the spouse is doing, right? That's that $1 to $3 million business. That $3 to $5 million business needs a manager, at least one manager. If you have an HVAC manager and a plumbing manager, that would be even better. But that's where you start layering on. And now the business owner needs to be able to coach managers instead of coaching everyone. From 1 to 3 million, he has to coach everyone, right? From 3 to 5 million, you start layering on managers, and your management, the way you manage people changes, because you're not managing people that do the work out in the field. You're managing the managers that manage the people out in the field. And so your role changes. And then when you get above 5 million in revenue, you start looking at another layer of managers, right? You have your department managers, you have your overall operations manager, and so you have to change as a leader as the company grows. And so that old thing about, if I could just get to the next million, everything would be fine. Well, to get to that next goal, if you're at 3 million and you want to get to 5, you got to hire some people to manage that, right? And so this is why the myth is busted. Just getting to 5 million doesn't solve your problems. It might solve your problems if you could do it the way you're doing it now, maybe, because you got $2 million more coming in, but you can't do it. You have to have management to help you take care of the business. And so that creates cost. Mm-hmm. And so why don't we just stay at 3 million and get a 29 EBITDA for a couple of years and then slowly grow to 5 million? Makes a lot more sense, and you make a lot more money.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Instead of always striving to go right to it and then taking all the burden and inefficiencies along the ride. And then when you get to that $5 million mark, you go, uh-oh, I'm still not making any money, and the number's bigger. Right.
Right. You'd be like, well, I'm going to go to 10 and then it's going to solve my problems, but it doesn't.
It doesn't.
No.
I'm curious with EBITDA, because we had Ellen Rohrer on the show January, and one of the things that she talked about when it came to EBITDA was what's that? Sorry.
Great lady.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
So much knowledge.
Love Ellen. Yeah.
Yeah. But one of the things she talked about around EBITDA was it really depends on what your goal is as a business as to what that number should be at, right? You could be producing at 29 and then take a bunch of that and reinvest it, like you talked about, in terms of community sponsorship, reinvest it into your business, hire another ops manager, right?
Buy out your competition.
Right. Buy out your competition. Absolutely. It gives you more options. Do you kind of believe in the same sentiment in terms of what your goal is determines what your EBITDA really should be at the end of the day, and how much of that you should be reinvesting into the company versus storing it to make that percentage bigger because you're trying to sell in a year?
Oh, I think you continue to invest in your business, but you increase your EBITDA no matter what.
Right. And
the thing about increasing EBITDA is we can do it through solving all the chaos in your business. That's how you do it.
Right.
But the byproduct is if you actually get your business right. Remember we talked about that 13 hours on the job, that customer will never use you again. We talked about overbooking and you're being late to everyone and you're making all your customers slightly upset, but that's the norm, right? Being late to everything and not really knowing when we're coming kind of thing. That's the norm. Improving those things will automatically bring the revenue, right? Because now the customer's happy. They're giving you 5-star reviews. They're like, oh, this company is even better. It's worth the extra money that they're charging me, but I don't have to waste my whole day.
Right.
So that's cheaper, right? But instead we keep raising our prices and giving worse service and make less money. We'll raise our price. And for some reason we didn't make any more money because we still never got rid of what was causing the problem. Raising prices can't not be the answer every single time. And that's the nice thing about it. I can sell, and you can see that JP was selling his air conditioners on a 50% gross margin, 50, and made 29% EBITDA. So you don't have to be the highest price company in town to make tons of money. You need to be the most organized company in town to make the most money.
Right.
I like that.
Selling
I like the
on
part
a
about
50% gross margin. You go to any PE firm and see if they're charging a 50% margin. They're 60 plus because they have to be.
Right.
Because they're so bloated.
right.
And you've been taught to always raise your hourly rate, 400, 500 on your flat rate pricing. But when you do that, you've realized that you didn't change anything on the bottom line. The reason you didn't is because you just pissed off more people because you're trying to take on more stuff.
Right.
And so your customers they're just leaving you and you don't even realize it.
Right.
And your closing percentage went down because you're so expensive. All that stuff aggravates you, right?
Well, and I like that transparency on that because you hear a lot of times in, let's use the Facebook groups, for example. Somebody's talking about this, that, or the other thing, and you have 10 people that jump on, raise your prices, raise your prices, raise your prices, raise your prices. And in some cases, it's warranted if your prices are rock bottom. But in a lot of cases, when you actually analyze, you take what Chris has taken out of, the ideas and put it into the engineer's hands to be able to build what, you guys have at Sera. Now you don't have to necessarily increase your prices. You can look at your efficiencies within your business and create your profit that way, which is a different way to be able to do it and maintain your customer base and get more efficient, which helps your customer base, which then gets you more customers. And it's a spitball and the cycle effect. So
then you can charge more because you add more value.
Right. Then you can increase your prices, right? And then you get even more EBITDA, right? It's a different way to look at it. And I appreciate the new breath of fresh air into it versus the old adage of, well, raise your prices, right? Because that's not always the right answer. So,
especially now,
right?
The inflation and all the things that are going on, gas prices. I mean, you have to raise your prices for all this cost. You're already too high. Why don't we just work on simplifying the business? And I'm not talking about firing people. I'm talking about fixing the business.
Right. So I love that. Well, gentlemen, it's been an absolute slice. My whiskey is almost done. However, we do have 2 more questions. Billy already knows the question that's coming, but I'm going to ask it to Chris first. Chris, what is one question that you wish people would ask you more, but don't?
How did we come up with Sera? SERA.
Ooh, that's a good question. So,
yeah,
how did we come up with Sera?
Well, it actually predates me, but I believe the story is, Billy, keep me honest, is that we were doing. He did this in like 10 minutes, is his claim, but put together service automation, new era in service automation combined together. And there's a little play on AI right there when it comes to automation and some of the technology that we have patent pending on. So I believe that's the story. I'm going to see if I'm right, but that was what I inherited.
Well, is he right, Billy?
Yeah, he's pretty close. It only took us really about 3 minutes. I even drew out the logo
3
in
minutes
that.
now. Scott,
in
from
that
10 minutes to 3 minutes, guys.
So one of the guys, my CFO said, I used to work for a guy and he named all of his businesses with the word era in it, ERA. And I said, well, what about Sera? Service era, the new service era. And then I was like, wait a second. So I wrote it on the board with that lowercase a, and then I put a dot there. I said, Here we go. Service Automated Intelligence. And that's
Now,
how it was born. And it was literally that fast.
do you still have the piece of paper where you wrote and drew that out on?
I actually did it on a whiteboard and we have the photo.
Oh, perfect. Even better. So there you go. Maybe make an NFT
Yeah,
out of that.
it's archived.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
That's the new way you get a membership into Sarah's.
Right.
is by the NFT.
By the NFT. All right, Billy, your turn. You had 3 questions last time. I'm just gonna, if you say the same question, I'm just gonna go and you got to choose another one. I have them queued up in the private document though that you don't get access to. So, Billy, what is one question that you wish people would ask you more but don't?
Sure. So I'm going to play on what Chris just said. How did we come up with the name BillyGo? Just think about
All right.
it. Most plumbing HVAC companies are the last name or the first name of the person that started the business, right? Joe Bob's Plumbing, Henry's AC, or some wild name, right? And then you come up with this name BillyGo. And I'll have a story for that. So, I retired a couple years after my business was bought from PE. I retired from the PE company in my business, and I was a young fellow when I retired, and I just got in the way, right? Because my wife wasn't retired, my kids were still in school, and I just all of a sudden here was this guy that was in the house all day. I was working, I had real estate deals, I had all kinds of stuff going on, but I was home. I was in the way. Nobody was used to me being there because I would go in the office early and I'd work, that's what I love to do. And so after the fun of us traveling, my wife and I did a lot of traveling when I retired. And then once that kind of wore off and I started thinking I needed to do something again, I'd sit around and I guess I was moping around or something. And I started hearing from her, Billy, go do something. Billy, go do this. Billy, go do that. But one day, just kind of being a jerk, I go, really, Billy, go? And I put it in GoDaddy, and it was available. So I got it. And so that's how we came up with the name BillyGo. So it was get my ass out of the house.
Billy, go get your ass out of the house. There it is.
Yeah.
All right, sure. You got to
That's the
go get
story.
your ass out of the house. Is probably some way you can put that into some marketing material and collateral somewhere to
Exactly.
be able to push that messaging out. But I like that story. But it's simplistic, right? I mean, you think about the ideas in everyday regular life on how you can name something that's different. I was always wondering like BillyGo, so I'm glad that you asked that question. I just never thought about asking it because it's a question that you wish people would ask more but don't. So I like it.
We just let things flow, man. We don't try to overthink anything. We just let things happen and they just happen. So that's kind of what we build. So
But have a couple ranch waters, and all of a sudden we got our marketing plan.
right?
Well, it is funny, like you like just let things happen, right? And have that dreaming and scheming time. Like when I, it's actually funny when I shared the screen. There's a little red circle with a green check mark, and that's called Time Doctor. So we actually track our time in our organization, in terms of where we're like, because we've taken the page out of Sarah. I'm like, okay, how can we be more efficient in our business? I mean, it doesn't automate it like it does at BillyGo. There's still some manual aspects to it, but we also have something called dreaming and scheming time in there, where literally is just that dreaming and scheming time, where we talk about nothing and everything and just let her fly and have those open dialogues. Because when you have that as an organization, you're going to get some great ideas that are going to result from it.
Couldn't
You
agree
can't
more.
walk in any room. You can't walk in any office room or anything in our business without having it'll have a whiteboard in it.
Right.
We are dreamers, and we come up with some crazy stuff, and we have a blast doing it. I mean, this is the most fun I've ever had running a business. I'm not stressed out. I'm just building this stuff, and we're creating something from thin air, and it's just a ton of fun. And I've got really great people to work with every day, and it's really almost not like work. We're really having such a good time doing it. So,
Well, I think about Google X Labs. and like Google X Labs, it's a lesser known project from Google, and it's all their crazy ideas, right? And they actually take and they celebrate when a project gets canceled. They have a big party and they celebrate as a result, because they're like, hey, you know what? We're going to celebrate the failure of a project, because it means that if we celebrate these failures, people are going to continue to come up with ideas. And if we continue to come up with ideas, now we can innovate as an organization. And when we can innovate as an organization, we're going to be on the cutting edge, and we're going to be able to move our business further ahead by a collective coming together with ideas than we're just the leadership team. So I like that. Maybe I'll save that question for the next time that you're on. I'll have to write it down. I had a question, but I'm gonna hold on to that one on that note. But anyways, as we wrap up, it's been a pleasure, guys.
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. I can't wait to meet both of you guys down in Vegas for the Service Rocket event. It's going to be a blast. Stop by our booth. Or actually, it's not a booth. It's going to be a table. We can shoot the shit and maybe have a couple of ranch waters in the process.
There you go.
Sounds good.
All right.
Sounds great.
Until next time, guys.
See you.
Cheers.
See you, fellas.
Cheers. Thanks.
Well, that's a wrap on another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Before you go, two quick things. First off, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. The other thing, if you took one tiny bit of information out of this show, no matter how big, no matter how small, all we ask is for you to introduce this to one person in your contacts list. That's it. That's all. One person.